John.
Hi, Katie. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. And how are you up there?
Fine. I'm working my way through a huge pint and a half of black coffee.
And I'm joining you as well with mine. So where are you today?
So at the moment, I'm in my test room in the practice in Kinross. Working in practice now, as you know, it's a slightly different situation than it was before, with all the PPE and all the, having to have patients in and out of the practice in a much more controlled way than they were before. What about yourselves?
Yeah, very much the same, really. There's been some good things that have come from our changes and our adaptations, and probably some things that we'll continue to do forevermore.
It's a kind of learning curve for everyone. We've certainly found that over the whole piece, just, sort of learning to do things that you took for granted in your business.
Yes.
And having to rethink about how do we do this to, to hold on what was good, but still follow the new guidelines. The team of people that work for me never cease to amaze me with how, flexible and resilient that they can be. And this has really been a challenging time for everyone.
Yes.
And much like the general population, some of them are, are very robust and quite blasé and don't really feel personally threatened by the whole thing. Other people feel very, very much the pressure of it, and they know people that have been unwell, and so there's a whole spectrum of experiences within the staff group that there is amongst the whole population, and you just have to kind of tailor what you're saying to people and how you're interacting with them based on that.
So tell me a little bit, first of all, about your team.
So the team that I work with, there's about 40 people work in the company over 7 sites, and basically so we have one big group, which is the whole group, everyone who works together, and then that's broken down into the smaller groups in each of the practice settings, and they're groups of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people that work within a various practice setting.
Sure. And what does the term team actually mean to you?
Well, I think team really is about everyone just working together to achieve a single end. And in our case, the team is all about solving the problem that the patient or the public or anyone who comes into the practice and deals with the business, solving the problem that they have. Basically, we've always worked that the patient has been the focus of what we're all doing in practice. So obviously, like any business, we've got sales targets that we try to meet and various quotas that we're trying to make up. But essentially, all the members of the team are focusing on what the patient wants and needs, and then directing all their efforts towards that.
If you were to ask your team what the word team means to them.
They do. We spend quite a lot of time in staff training talking about this. The why of what it is that we do. And that really is the essential part of it. Obviously, we're dealing with a whole variety of ages of patients that come into the practice, a whole variety of budgets depending on the practices that I've got cover quite different demographic areas. Some of them are quite affluent, some of them are not. But essentially, everyone that comes in has got a problem with their eyes or their glasses or their vision that they need us to help them with, and that's pretty much what we do in all the practices. And I'm fairly confident my staff would echo that sentiment.
And so how do you get them all together?
We used to get together, we had a sort of training day once per year, usually in December, and we'd get together and do basically a day of presentations and workshops, and then go out for something nice to eat, and that was good. And the other thing that we do to keep in contact with the practices is that the directors visit the practices once a month. We go around and spend a bit of time in each of the practices so that we can keep in contact with the team. Going forward, of course, that will be replaced by this kind of team Zoom type meeting, so that there's fewer people just making unnecessary trips in and out of practice. But I think there's still probably a place at some point in the future for the more kind of face-to-face aspect of that, keeping in touch with people.
Yes, and so do they all know each other fairly well, your team, or do they tend to stay with their individual teams?
Well, the individual teams tend to be based in the practices, And we do have one or two members of staff who are mobile, who dot in and out in various of the locations. But obviously, people spend time, they email each other requesting frames or looking for information, or they phone each other in the practices, so they do know each other. And that was the great thing about the annual training day that we did, was everyone got together. Yeah. And one of the best things about it, because we got the staff to fill in feedback forms. What did you like about the day? Was this lecture by John boring? Was this presentation by someone else really interesting? The feedback that we got back was the thing that they liked most was getting together before the day started. There was coffee and pastries and stuff, and basically that we just let that run for about 45 minutes, an hour, or an hour, and that was the thing people liked best, was just chatting with colleagues from other practices. And it was funny, that's the unscripted part of the day was the thing that people liked best.
Yeah, it's a bit like conferences, isn't it? We all like the networking best of all. And
it's exactly that. Chance meetings with people and the little get you pick up.
So what sort of things do you do to support your teams, and how have you helped them in this period to adapt to the massive change that we've been going through?
Yeah, well, in the early stages of lockdown, as we discussed previously, that the plans changed almost on a daily basis, and we ended up diverting all our phones and working remotely from one site and servicing all 7 sites from one base practice. And that was staffed by 4 members of staff who stayed on board along with the directors for the whole duration. And for a lot of the time we were in the practice basically just supporting them, even doing really basic things like making sure everyone had a cup of tea or a mug of coffee, helping with phone answering, because you can imagine 7 practices diverted into one location. The phone literally didn't stop ringing.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like working in a call center, which was bizarre because that's not something I've got any experience with. And then as the restrictions on practice were sort of slowly lifted by the Scottish government, we opened up the practices for essential and emergency and gradually brought people back in to work in the practices. And then it was much more a case of kind of mentoring them and giving them an induction into the new way of working, making sure that they were comfortable with the PPE, making sure that they weren't feeling too anxious or stressful coming into work, dealing with the public when perhaps they've been in the house for 2 or 3 months. Just all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Did you find that there were a lot of advantages from sort of bonding with those people over that period of lockdown?
I think undoubtedly when you work in close proximity under pressure with a small group of people, you absolutely develop a bond. Yeah. And I thought I got on with my staff well before, but particularly that small team of people that worked all the way through, they did a fantastic job.
So tell me a little bit about your leadership style and how you lead your team.
I don't think I'm a natural leader, but what I try to do is provide a sort of clear signpost for people as to what I want them to do.
Yes.
And basically then help them to want to do it rather than feeling they have to do it because I'm putting them under pressure. So I try not to put people under pressure, but I try to encourage them to basically follow the direction, but in a want to rather than a have to kind of way.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of achievements or particular members of staff that you might look back on and think, actually, I really nurtured that member of the team?
I think there are several members of the staff team who've developed their skills while they've been working for us. We've had several members of staff do the ABDO course by correspondence and then qualify, and they're now professionally qualified members of staff. We've had several pre-reg optometrists come through the practices over the years, one of whom is still with us, still working as a qualified optometrist. And just even on a more general level, just seeing people kind of develop their own skills and just become comfortable, just even learning technical things about contact lenses and spectacle lenses, as well as obviously all the frame fitting stuff, just seeing people develop the skills and just get better at doing the job in practice. That's always rewarding to see.
It is very satisfying, that is, isn't it? You're seeing people progress and move on. So what is the most important lesson that you've learned about teams?
I think particularly over the lockdown, I think the need to kind of be clear in your own mind what you see as the way forward. So clarity of vision. And then I think then just communicating that in a way that's meaningful to the various people that you then have to interact with. The people that are very robust and keen to just press ahead and get back to normal, and the other people that are maybe a bit more timid or cautious or anxious about things, and just being able to sort of give them your vision and direct them in that, on that path. I think that's the main lesson, and that is the challenge. That's the challenge that we all face.
How much time do you invest in your team?
So, as I say, we under normal circumstances, my role is mainly managerial. So there's lots of time usually to spend time developing people, and that can be training in the practices or just looking at the figures and the numbers and giving them feedback on how the practice is performing. Over the lockdown, for me, I've had to learn a lot of new skills. I've had to learn my software system inside out, which I haven't looked at since I purchased it. So I've had to learn all the skills of the reception role and the dispensing role, even the lab role. I was even glazing jobs in the lab over the lockdown, trying to make sure that things kept turning over. So I think that's given me a good insight as to the pressures that people have when they're in these job roles, because it's quite easy to be further up the pyramid, if you like, in an organization and think, oh yeah, they just answer the phone, just get on and do it. But that's there's more to it even than that. Even answering the phone, you can do it well or you can do it badly.
Now I can imagine that that period of time spent on the shop floor and working through lockdown was enlightening and helpful in many ways. Finally, John, what do you think that your team look for in you as a leader? What are they looking for from you?
I think people like to be listened to. If they're giving you feedback on things, I think it's very easy in a kind of management role to think that you've worked it all out, you've looked at the figures, you've made a plan, and now you're going to just press the go button on it. And I think I certainly always try to listen to what my team are telling me, because they'll give me insights into things, even with my newfound receptionist experience or assistant experience that I've just had. They'll give me insights into their job and the challenges they face. That I feel it's up to me to listen to that and then put that into the mix and give them some advice and guidance.
So you're not thinking of swapping jobs with them then?
No, I'm very happy to be getting back to more like a normal way of doing things. It's hard work, it's hard work dealing with people, phone calls and face to face. It really is.
It is. You cannot underestimate how difficult that job is, I don't think, and how keeping calm in that situation is actually it takes a very skilled person.
Yeah, it's a real skill. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, John, for that. And it's absolutely no wonder that you're such a great leader, the humility that you've demonstrated today. And it's no wonder also that your team have been with you for so long. So thank you for sharing all your insights and knowledge with us today. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, I'll see you at the next conference, at the next SIGHTCARE conference, Katie. And
yes.
Thanks for your kind words. That's always appreciated.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.